Before we dive in, take a second. If this message finds you at just the right moment, pause, breathe. You're not alone. If anything in this video resonates with you, please like, share, and drop a comment. You never know whose healing begins with your courage to speak. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, the glow of my phone lighting up a room that felt darker than it should have. I had sent a message hours ago, not a long one, just something simple, something heartfelt. The kind of message that takes courage to send because it carries a piece of you in it. And still, no response. No dots bouncing, no read receipt, just silence. And in that silence, a voice crept in. Quiet at first, like a whisper from deep within the walls of your chest. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe they're busy. Maybe you don't matter that much anymore. That last thought, that's the one that hits hardest. That's the one that settles in your gut like a stone. Because we don't just want love, we want to feel valued. We want to feel like our presence adds something to someone else's life. Like our voice matters. Like our effort matters. Like we matter. And when that doesn't happen, when someone you used to feel safe with begins to treat your care like it's optional, something inside begins to crumble. Maybe you've felt it, that invisible shift in the air between two people. The way conversations become shorter, smiles become thinner, plans are always maybe. You start wondering if you're being paranoid, too sensitive. You question yourself before you ever question them. And before you know it, you've traded your self-worth for their indifference and called it patience. It's one of the most painful forms of grief, being emotionally erased by someone who once made you feel seen. But here's the deeper truth. People don't always stop valuing you because you've changed. Sometimes they stop valuing you because they have changed. Their needs, their focus, their own relationship with themselves, all of that shapes how they relate to you. And while it's tempting to twist yourself into something more palatable just to win back their attention, doing so only teaches your heart that it must shrink in order to be loved. That's not love, that's performance. And performance is exhausting when all you want is connection. So what do we do when we feel someone slipping away, when their affection feels rationed and their presence feels conditional? We pause. We listen, not to them, but to ourselves. To that tender, bruised place inside that keeps asking, do I still matter? And then we respond, not by proving our worth to them, but by remembering it for ourselves. Here's the trick. It's not about confrontation. It's not about making a scene. And it's definitely not about begging for someone's attention like a child tugging on a sleeve. The trick is quiet. So quiet it almost feels unnatural at first, especially if you're someone who leads with your heart. You pull back, but you do it with love. Not out of spite. Not to make them feel what you're feeling. Not to teach them a lesson. You pull back because you've realized something sacred. Your energy is a gift. Your time, your presence, your kindness. These are not obligations. They're offerings. And when those offerings are no longer honored, you have every right and every responsibility to redirect them back toward yourself. Now, let me be clear. Pulling back doesn't mean cutting off. It doesn't mean becoming cold or detached or passive-aggressive. It's not a punishment, it's a boundary born from self-respect, not bitterness. Think of it like this. If you've been pouring water into a cracked vase that never fills, at some point you realize the leak isn't your fault, but continuing to pour is your choice. So you pause. You turn the jug back toward yourself. You begin to tend to your own roots instead of watering soil that refuses to hold you. You begin to tend to your own roots instead of watering soil that refuses to hold you. This kind of pullback is incredibly vulnerable, especially if you're used to proving your worth through doing, giving, fixing. It can feel like giving up. But it's not giving up. It's letting go. Letting go of the illusion that love means sacrifice without reciprocation. Letting go of the belief that your consistency should be met with inconsistency and that you just have to keep showing up more, louder, better, to be loved again. Here's what happens when you pull back with love. Clarity begins to rise. You stop trying to decode mixed signals and start trusting your intuition. You realize you've been trying to earn something that should have always been freely given. And you begin to recognize that the absence of value from someone else doesn't mean the absence of value in you. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, your pulling back creates space for the truth to show itself. Sometimes they notice, sometimes they don't. But either way, you've shifted the center of gravity. No longer orbiting around someone else's approval, you begin to center your own emotional well-being. It's a strange kind of ache, to love someone without losing yourself, to keep your heart open even when it's been bruised, to still care deeply while gently removing yourself from places that no longer feel safe to land. Most of us were never taught how to do that. We were taught, either directly or indirectly, that love means giving, sometimes endlessly, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. We were taught that loyalty means staying, even when staying is quietly breaking your spirit. So when you feel someone pulling away from you, when their messages become colder, when their interest fades, when their eyes stop lighting up at your presence, the first thing many of us do is try harder. We reach more. We overcompensate. We mold ourselves into softer shapes, hoping they'll hold us again. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one tells you in the beginning. You can care deeply for someone and still choose yourself. Loving someone doesn't mean staying in a one-sided dynamic. It doesn't mean proving your worth through overgiving. You don't have to extinguish your own fire just to keep someone else warm. When you love without losing yourself, you begin to understand that your heart isn't a currency to be traded for someone else's validation. It's not a performance to be clapped for. It's a presence to be met with reverence. With respect inside, presence comes from being present, from seeing something through a different lens, from knowing someone was half present. It's a presence I keep. So what does it look like to pull back while still loving? It looks like pausing before you send that third text just to keep the conversation alive. It looks like taking a walk without your phone, letting your nervous system breathe, reminding your body that you don't need a notification to feel complete. It looks like choosing to spend time in spaces that make you feel whole, grounded, inspired, instead of sitting in the emptiness of waiting. And here's the thing. This isn't easy. It's soul work. It's learning how to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. It's feeling the itch to reach out, but choosing instead to reach inward, to your own heart, your own needs, your own healing. There is no formula for this kind of inner strength. It's tender and messy and deeply human. But what I know for sure is this: when you stop chasing someone who no longer turns toward you and instead start nurturing your own soul again, the energy shifts. Sometimes the person comes back, drawn by your wholeness. Sometimes they don't. But what's more important is what you return to: your dignity, your self-respect, your softness, still intact. There's something no one really prepares you for: the moment when you finally realize someone has stopped seeing you. Someone seeing who you once made you, someone seeing you. Not because you've become invisible, but because they've stopped looking. They've stopped noticing the way you soften your voice when they're hurting, the way you check in, even when you're drowning a little yourself, the way you show up over and over again. It's not just painful, it's disorienting. Because being devalued by someone you love doesn't just hurt. It shakes your sense of identity. It stirs that ancient fear that maybe, just maybe, you're forgettable. That maybe you don't matter as much as you thought. But this is the moment, this exact moment, when your self-worth is no longer a theory. It becomes a choice. Because here's the bold truth: you are not replaceable. No matter how someone treats you, No matter how easily they move on or how cold they become, you are not disposable. You are not interchangeable. Your value doesn't decrease just because someone failed to see it clearly. Think about it this way. If someone hands you a priceless painting and they use it to cover a broken window, does that make the painting worthless? No. It only reveals that the person didn't understand what they were holding. Just because someone mishandles your worth doesn't mean you don't have any. But here's where it gets tricky. We often internalize their treatment. We tell ourselves, if I were more fun, more interesting, more perfect, they would treat me better. That's the lie. That's the trap. Because the truth is, their inability to see your value says everything about them and nothing about your worth. Your job is not to convince someone to treasure you. Your job is to remember who you are, even when they forget. And yes, that's hard. Especially when you've been the consistent one, the loyal one, the one who always forgives, always makes space, always tries again. But there comes a time when loving them louder won't bring them closer. It just makes your own heart harder to hear. That's why pulling back with love matters so much. It gives you the room to hear your own voice again, to remember what it feels like to be respected, to be cherished, and most of all, to be seen not just by someone else, but by you. You deserve to be in relationships, friendships, partnerships, family ties, where you don't have to audition for love, where you don't have to remind someone to care, where being yourself is enough. This is where everything begins to shift, not in the grand gesture, not in some dramatic conversation, but in the small, quiet decision to come back home. To yourself. You've pulled back, you've stopped overgiving, you've begun to honor your emotional energy. But now comes the most important part of all, what you do with the space that's left. Because when you stop pouring into someone who no longer values you, what remains is an open field. It can feel empty at first, quiet, maybe even lonely, but it's also sacred. That space is where you begin to return. You begin to notice the pieces of yourself you abandoned just to be acceptable. The passions you shelved to be more convenient, the truths you muted to be more likable. And in that silence, something powerful starts to emerge. You remember yourself. You remember what it feels like to laugh without wondering if someone is annoyed. You remember what it feels like to speak without walking on eggshells. You remember what it feels like to move through your day without seeking someone else's permission to feel worthy. This isn't about being alone. It's about becoming whole. Because when you come home to yourself, you stop needing to be chosen. You are the one who chooses. You stop needing to be rescued. You realize you've always been your own anchor. You stop asking, why didn't they value me? And start asking, why did I forget to value myself? That's not self-blame, that's self-honesty. And from that place of truth, real transformation begins. You don't have to harden to protect your heart. You don't have to wear cynicism like armor. You just have to stay soft with yourself. You have to become the safe space you were always seeking in someone else. You begin to set boundaries, not because you're angry, but because you finally understand that your peace matters. You start saying no, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You stop explaining your worth and start embodying it. And slowly, without even trying, you begin to attract people and places that recognize the beauty in you, because you do. This is not about revenge or proving anything. This is about the most radical act of self-love you can offer. Refusing to shrink for anyone who cannot see your light. You're not here to be tolerated. You're here to be celebrated. You're not a placeholder. You're not someone's convenience. You are a once-in-a-lifetime kind of soul, and when someone doesn't value you, it's not your job to convince them, it's your cue to release them. The moment you begin walking in your full truth, the right people don't need convincing. They just know. And they rise to meet you there, not because you demanded it, but because your energy quietly says, I no longer make space for what does not honor me. This is your return, your reclamation, not loud, not bitter, just powerful, just real. So give yourself permission to stop waiting, stop shrinking, stop negotiating your worth. Walk away, not with anger, but with grace. So here's my gentle invitation to you. If you feel unseen, unloved, or undervalued, pull back. With love. Not to punish, but to protect. Not to get attention, but to reclaim your own. Let your silence speak what your words no longer need to. Because the moment you stop chasing people who've stopped choosing you, you start choosing yourself. And that's where everything begins to change.